Ladies and gentlemen, I am Yusrael and welcome back to Clingin On. And what could yet be the worst episode of the lot? Because the mission that we are going to be doing today, Spin the Wheel, doesn't allow us to kill anybody. We have no bloodshed at all. The only way in which I'm going to get to kill anyone in this mission is if one of my crew is somehow stupid enough to fail me and warrant execution for incompetence. Oh good, today is looking up. Right, well let's acknowledge that. Get into the mission options. Where did I leave the option? Oh yes, it's down here, isn't it? There we go. Right, it wasn't any of them. They're safe. Now, he was an advice. Ah, there we are. Right. Yes, fed to Tribbles, I think. I'm not sure whether to pity him or the Tribbles. Anyway, off to Drazana. There are worse pits in the galaxy, but Drazana's pretty bad. And for some reason, and I don't know why, the server has always been a little bit laggy of late when it's come to accepting missions, both duty officer ones and mainline missions as well. I don't know whether that's a server thing or whether it's something that's crept into the client code. Anyhow, fortunately it's not too much of a hop to Drazana, so here we are. Didn't have to waste any cash on the transwarp this time. Well, I could, I suppose have done, but hey, why bother? Alright, Drazana Station, ladies and gentlemen. Not only is it Federation built, it was then taken over by Ferengi, who couldn't even bother to maintain the place properly. Yes, I wonder if that extends to his spine. What's the going rate for Ferengi spine, ladies and gentlemen? What happens if you break one of those? Can they still charge you for it? Or does it fall to their next of kin, who presumably would charge an agent's fee on top? Right, now then, where are we? Little flicker while the mouse catches up. Oh yes, there's the door. Always handy to remain mindful of your surroundings. A true Klingon warrior must never become disoriented. Except, obviously, when blind drunk on cheap blood wine. Right, now then. Question Bellan. I have to wonder if that's any relation to Bellan the Looter. Those of you who used to play Ultima Online back in the day will remember her exploits is perhaps the nicest word. If you thought gates to Theramore were the worst thing a mage could do to you, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, Bellan took it to a whole new level and a whole new game. Beg? Where's the void him out of an airlock and then beam him back aboard until he talks option? Can't do this the old-fashioned way, so we're going to have to solve the little logic puzzle first. In truth, of course, I'm griping unnecessarily. Oh, wow. I thought it was going to be quiet down here. This episode, this mission has been out for yonks and yonks, and either these are all alts who are levelling up, and that's the impression I'm getting from looking at their gear, but okay, right, where was it? Oh yes, gates, fun with gates. Those of you who play World of Warcraft will be familiar with the portal system that mages have access to, and of course you can at least see where the portal is going if you have eyes and bother to use them. Of course, Ultima Online being a little more hardcore than World of Warcraft, you couldn't see where a gate led, and the mage could send a gate to pretty much anywhere. So if you asked for a gate to, say, town, be sure to ask politely, and make sure you haven't hacked off the mage or stolen any of his loot or gotten him killed, or even that he just didn't feel like a few cheap giggles, because otherwise that gate you just jumped through might not be going to town. It might be going straight to a dragon's lair. Now then, how did this puzzle work? You had to start with the replicators. Then you had to go to the environment. Then it was... No, you didn't. You couldn't go to the environmental controls. It was over to gravity first. My brain's going stuff. I'm going to get this wrong. So, replicators, then environment. You didn't connect to the holosuites at all. Then it was gravity. Then it's over to the weapons console for the fourth reroute, which is all the way over here, just because the Ferengi decided their maintenance people needed the exercise. Yeah, maybe, who knows. Or just to stop that little cluster up there getting too crowded. So the fourth connection is to the defense grid. Now then, fifth connection, I think, was back to environment, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. Or was it? Oh, I can't remember. Let's just try gravity again anyway. Let's face it, it's not like anything explodes if you get this wrong. Ugh! It's been ages since I did this puzzle. I'm sure butts are clenching right now. So... No, that was wrong as well. I got that right first time. Ah, what is wrong with me? Okay, replicators. Environment. Gravity. Yes, definitely gravity. This worked before. There we go. Now it's the weapon consoles, the defense grid. Then connection number 5... it wasn't gravity, so I'm pretty sure it has to be environment, because then that has to connect back to the replicators to finish it off. And done. Right. Let's go and see if that spineless little grey worm is actually going to cough up the information. Maybe we'll get to throw him out of an airlock after all. Can but hope. And... yeah. And hope is yet again the first step on the road to disappointment. No airlocking for him yet. And... is Starfleet using child labour? Again. I mean, there's got to be a reason they had those kiddies on the Galaxy-class starships, wasn't it? Presumably it was to train them, and then to use them for some nefarious purpose. Right. Okay. Well, I'm sure we could take her somewhere safe, but she wants us to play Dubbo first. Truly a wretched hive. Does nobody in this place want to give straight answers? More to the point, how does a backwater Ferengi afford a mobile hologram emitter? I mean, no. We'll gamble because we have to, not because we have to like it. This is an un-Klingon way of doing things. And besides, if it's being run by the Ferengi, it's almost certainly rigged, isn't it? Are there... I mean, it's... come on, it's Ferengi. It's got to be rigged. And no, of course it wasn't. 1 gold-pressed latinum. Well, I'm sure we can find something to spend it on. Maybe. Maybe. Okay, so she's bailing, having told us next to nothing that we didn't already know, from the fact that the lighting is going blue around here as well. So, she's completely useless as a spy in a source. May the Federation take her. Probably playing both ends against the middle, knowing her. And, so many Federation starships. Do you think anyone would notice if we just had a little accident with the weapons systems here? Can we even have a... bah! No, we can't even have a little unfortunate accident. Ugh. Truly the gods... well, the gods are dead, but truly the devs hate me. Right, back to the mission, I suppose. Engaged. Let's get out of this place. I don't want to come back there unless it involves a large warhead and an even bigger explosion. It'd pretty the place up, improve the atmosphere, and raise property prices in the neighbourhood. So back to Gnalda, a proper starbase. Properly maintained, properly run. Still don't get to kill anybody, of course. Ugh. These episodes have their uses, of course. After all, every Star Trek episode had its quiet moments, even the Rock'em Knock'em action movies. I mean, Star Trek 2 in particular had its moments where things were being quietly philosophical. Granted, it was right at the end, and hell, even Family Guy took that scene seriously, which tells you how much clout it had. Now, can we get a little piracy on the side while we're here? After all, if I can't have some fun, I'm not going to be a complete Vogon. Can at least let the crew grab some stuff while we're here. And yes, I doubt we'll get anything useful from it, but you never know. Nothing else, it's good marauding experience, and marauding being the Klingon equivalent of diplomacy. Yes, it's handy to have, especially for the transwarp options later on. Right, let's get going again. I really have got to remember to switch it so that I don't stop the ship every time I open a dialogue window. And pick up some new duty officers while we're here. Now then, let's see what we get. Where did I leave the box? There we go. I'm sure they remember the air holes. Only 3, but well, at least they'll be useful. Decent quality. Now, how far to Gnalda? 3 light years. May as well dump some of the excess loot while we're here. More cash. Yep, dump that. Can always do the mission again and get the Mark 8 if I so desire. Although in truth, with only 6 weapon slots, I've only really got the room for 1 torpedo, so high yield photons do at least have the advantage of doing straight up damage, and I can always try and load a scatter volley if I want some AoE effect. The Harpeng has its uses, particularly if you're short on tactical slots, but in this case I'm not really short, so a straight photon or quantum tube works better because I've got the bridge officers to make it work better. Speaking of which, upgrade that deflector shield while we're here. And yes, better boost the medic at the same time. And that pretty much covers that, so let's just dock up and get this fiasco over with. Gnalda Station. This used to be the place to be if you were Klingon. After all, this is where the PvP quests and vendors were to be had back in the days before you could get hold of them remotely, or am I just fantasizing? Yes, I am. I'm going senile, and it's not even been 3 years yet, so quickly talk to Bella. I don't believe this. Kamen is a decent Klingon who works for Imperial Intelligence. Either he is a consummate actor, or Intelligence are going soft, or the world is not what it used to be. Well, we know the Davidians just want hunger. Let's face it, we don't bother to ask the Gach what it thinks before we chew on it, so why bother? Right. Those are some PvP quests. That is... oh, yes. Well, we've got some contraband, so let's dump that and get some dilithium for it. As I said in the last episode, it's always handy to have that stuff. Tribble bounty. I need to get my hands on a cannibal tribble at some point, which is going to mean doing random ground missions until I get a regular tribble and can make the kebab. However, that can wait. Now then. I can leave it here, or I can just go and kill something. Yes, let's just go kill something. Well, I'm not having an episode without at least somebody blowing up, exploding, or being dismembered messily. Or at least as messily as you can. So we'll go with his little daily side quest. The trailer system, ladies and gentlemen. Trailers, tomato, tomato. Yes, well, they're Cardassians. Of course they don't have anything resembling honour. They're not Klingon. What do you expect? And this guy is either an incredibly good deceiver, or he is actually the idealistic prat he makes himself out to be. So, let's swing by the trailer system. If nothing else, we can get some violence into today's episode. I'm not having an episode of this show where something doesn't explode or doesn't die. We are not going to have an episode in which everybody lives. And I'm sorry, I'm aware I ordered that Orion dead earlier. That's too bloodless for my taste. I don't even know where we got the potato from. But, who cares? Side trip. Set the autopilot for a second. And let's just skip the travel, because that'll be boring. So, welcome to the trailer system, ladies and gentlemen. This is essentially a rerun of the Federation version of the mission. It's just that you have Kamen rather than Drake acting as your mission contact. 3 satellites, all of which need fixing one way or another, or in this case, fixing with a few slight modifications on top. Alright, first one is basically common sense. You have to run the options in the right order, so replace the fuses first, then realign the solar panels so you've got raw power, then fix the EPS grid so the power is getting to the dampening field, and finally flick the switch on the dampening field, and hey presto, the satellite is working and everyone's happy. If you get that wrong, then there is an asteroid you can blow up for raw materials. When the Vorta said Starfleet could turn rocks into replicators, I don't think she meant it quite that literally. Second satellite is actually easy. You can do these in any order you like. Although I have to wonder how we're going to be patching the firmware. I mean, presumably we've got our hands on the latest version. Again, suitably modified. But ours not to reason why. So that's that fixed. Right, move on. Third satellite. Please, please let this be a decent fight. Because yes, the third satellite got shot up. So you have to beam over the away team to fix it. And while they're wandering about, sucking air through their teeth and generally inflating their repair estimates like all good engineers, a few hostiles show up. Don't ask me why the Galor immediately pops its feedback pulse. Actually, I know why. It's because it immediately aggroes the satellite. Handy of it to do that, of course, because we can now simply blow it away. Bang, 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 bang. Are the Cardassians making their ships out of paper again? Don't get me wrong, it's a very satisfying explosion, but I was hoping for a little more of a challenge. And I don't think those two are going to provide it. Right, scatter volley, torpedo spread. Oh, there's something off on the right as well. Cunning Jem'Hadar trying to sneak up with us. Well, the Cardassians have exploded, so let's just switch into rapid fire. Or not, as the case may be. Not really worth wasting the ammunition. Grab the loot and wait for the red alert to wear off so we can go and get the repair team, who have mysteriously been motivated by the sight of the explosions outside and have finished their work. Yeah, motivation Klingon style, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't fix the satellite, we'll leave you for the Jem'Hadar. Hey, it worked. Don't knock it. That has to be the most unfulfilling fight in ages. I want something better. Somebody, anybody, find me a saber-toothed tiger I feel like a wrestling match.